All right, everyone. The day is finally here. We are at WCW Starrcade. This is our quote unquote, season finale. Um, Mainly just because I wanted that to designate that as our big show, even though we're only like this is our third month in or second, whatever. It needed to be the big show. It's Starrcade. So let's see what we got here. 29,000 people showed up. Nice, nice. I like that. Um, Starting off, we have a women's battle royal, 10 of them. We have Deanna Perrazzo, Camille, Chris Statlander, Nikita Lyons, Santana Garrett, Shotzi Blackheart, Sue Young, Tennille Dashwood, Zaya Brookside, and Zeta Zhang. Bout didn't have much heat and terrible wrestling. Wow, Shotzi picking up the win here. That is crazy. So this is more about bragging rights. Also, I needed to get everyone on the show so they wouldn't be mad that they were left off the show. I think I've got almost everybody minus a small handful of people. That's okay. Crowd heat at the end of this was simmering. Wrestling was a 39, crowd was a 32, and segment rating was a 48. Zeta's getting better at her gimmick, and Nikita was off her game. But okay, that's a surprise for me here. Shotzi picking up the win over these. I don't know. I thought for sure it was going to be somebody else like Deanna or maybe, I don't know, Santana Garrett. Um, but yeah, Shotzi picking up the win here. Very nice. Good for her. Let's see if she can carry that momentum into something else in the upcoming weeks. Next up, we have a men's battle royal. This one featuring Charlie Dempsey, Chris Masters, Dirty Dango, EC3, Gable Steveson, Ice Williams, Jonathan Gresham, Josh Woods, Nick Nemeth, and Ron Killings. Another bout, didn't have much heat, terrible wrestling. Nick Nemeth picking up the win. Wow. All right, Nick with the win. Josh was off his game. Ron is still the flavor of the month. Crowd heat at the end of that was simmering. Wrestling did a 41, crowd was a 33, and our segment overall was a 52. So there we have it. Congratulations to our two Battle Royal winners, Shotzi and Nick. Both of them picking up the wins here tonight. Very nice. And then a good 5 minute. I hate that I keep saying interview, even though I picked promo. Whatever. Backstage, AJ Styles, Jay White, and Zack Sabre Jr. They're basically, they're backstage. They bump into each other, and they're talking about how, they still got unfinished business among the three of them. A couple of months back, when WCW first restarted, they were all near the top of the card and fighting each other, trying to prove who was better than who. And they're basically back to that square one. They're in the same boat. They still want to prove to see who's number one. And while nothing gets figured out tonight, it's clear, these men will meet each other in the ring again eventually. So that was good. The crowd heat at the end of that was hot and rising. I like that. Our segment did a 69. Very nice. Giggity. Let's move on. Poor 5 minute angle that took place backstage. Brian Pillman Jr. once again gaining the upper hand and attacking Sheamus, a sneak attack out of nowhere. He leaves Sheamus down on the ground and out and says, he's not done with him. He still needs to prove more to himself and to the WCW fans, and he's going to start by taking out Sheamus. The crowd heat at the end of that was white hot. Segment rating did a 51. The angle got the crowd hotter. I like that. Very nice. Here we have a bout that had decent reaction from the crowd, but terrible wrestling. Jay Lethal versus Hammerstone. Jay Lethal picking up the win here. Crowd heat at the end was very hot. Our ratings were a 42, 40 for the crowd, and 43 overall. What, let's see, Lethal and Hammerstone don't seem to click, and it made for an awkward bout. All right, so let's not put those two together again, but good for Lethal. Picking up the win here again, keeping momentum going for himself. Awful. Of course, it's awful. 5-minute interview backstage. The Von Erichs. They have an interview with JoJo, and they're basically talking about, they couldn't pick up the win the last time they had a match on television, but they said that they're here to stay, and that they're here to climb the mountain and one day become the top of the tag team division here in WCW. The crowd heat at the end was very hot, so that's good, despite it being an awful interview. Segment did a 43, and JoJo came across very well, so we're happy about that. Good for JoJo. Tag team action here. Wrecking Crew versus High Octane. It was a poor match, but I couldn't really expect much. I just wanted to get them more exposure, get them more out there, kind of flesh out our tag team division a little bit more here. But Wrecking Crew picking up the win. JTG actually got the pin. That's crazy. And for once, I didn't get the note that JTG was the weak link or he was struggling to keep up, so that's good. I guess putting him with Keith Lee is starting to rub off a little bit. Crowd heat at the end is very hot. Our wrestling did a 43. Crowd really wasn't into it. Only a 32. An overall segment rating of a 51. Let's see. Yeah, not bad. For once, no bad marks on JTG. Glad to see it. Of course. Even video packages with these guys, even when, oh my goodness, I just don't know what to do with these. I really want this to work out, but everything is just bad, bad, bad. Ooh, and worse, I see that it cooled down the crowd a little. Crowd heat at the end was hot but cooling. This was basically just a video package, running down the things that have happened between the Dark Ministry and Sting over the last couple of weeks slash months. Really, since Sting, returned to WCW to be the savior of WCW and keep it safe from all the evils. So, segment rating only a 31. Not good. Geez, at some point, I hope things really turn around and pick up for this group, because otherwise, I might have to just break the group up and do something else and give Mordecai his walking papers or something, because it's just not working out. Let's move on. Trish Stratus versus Carmella. Bout that had good heat and decent wrestling. Hey, I can't complain. Trish Stratus picking up the win here. Nice. Picked our crowd heat back up. White hot. And it's mentioned down here, got the crowd hotter. Good. Wrestling was a 55. Crowd was a 56. Segment was a 63. Do see a red note here, and Trish Stratus was really off her game. But underneath that, Trish and Carmella have great chemistry. So who knows? Maybe that could be a feud going forward, or maybe, yeah, it's going to have to, because I don't really have any women's tag teams, and I don't plan on introducing any women's tag team titles, because that would not make sense for us. We don't have a women's tag team division, nor do I have enough women to make a tag team division and keep the singles division alive and kicking. So, but there we go. They've got good chemistry together. I'll have to keep note of that. Trish and Carmella. Good job. All right, about decent reaction from the crowd, but terrible wrestling. Which, again, Mordecai is not the greatest wrestler, and Sting is a bit up there in age, so I guess I really couldn't expect much. But here we are, Sting. Sting picking up the win over Mordecai, and now thus completing taking over, or not taking over, but taking out, or getting wins over all three members of the Dark Ministry. The crowd heat at the end of that was very hot, and that's good. Wrestling was a 39, crowd was a 39, and our segment did a 49. So there we have it. Oh yeah, look at that. Mordecai only had a 24 for in-ring performance. Oof. Clearly that's where a lot of our issues lie with the Dark Ministry. Moving on, and who should come out while Sting is still in the ring celebrating? Then the Dark Lord himself, the Gravekeeper, Mean Mark Calloway. He shows up and just absolutely lays waste to Sting. Choke slam, tombstone pile driver, does the pose, that he is famous for, and the Dark Lord of the Dark Ministry is revealed, and it is none other than Mark Calloway. Crowd heat at the end of that was very hot. Segment did a 68, so I'm very pleased with the way that turned out. And yeah, everything, it fades to black, and it's left with Sting being laid out in the middle of the ring. We'll see how things turn out there. Decent match. We have Britt Baker versus AJ Mendez versus Tony Storm versus Natalia for the WCW Women's title. And wow, Britt picks up the win here. Britt Baker is our new women's champion. Kind of surprised. Let's see. Britt Baker was penalized due to being in extremely poor form. Not a good look on our new women's champion. Oof, might have to change that up sooner rather than later. But it's alright. The crowd heat at the end was very hot. Wrestling was a 56. Crowd was a 52. And segment was a 62. So yeah, not happy about that penalty, but whatever. We'll work on that coming up. All right, tag team action once again. Here we are to crown new tag team champions. We have Featured Attraction versus the Good Brothers versus Chris Bay and AJ Gray, and the team of Shelton Benjamin and Cash Wheeler. It was a decent match, and once again, on top of the mountain there for the tag team division, Featured Attraction picking up the win and becoming tag team champions yet again. AJ Gray was our weak link. Let's see. Those are probably the usual green notes about the Good Brothers and Featured Attraction making good teams. So, what else do we got? Yeah. Christian Cage was in amazing form. So, all right. Crowd heat at the end of that match was very hot. Our wrestling was a 53. Crowd was a 46. And our segment did a 60. So there we are. Tag team champions once again. Featured Attraction. Good 5-minute interview that took place backstage. Samoa Joe cutting a promo out there. He was informed earlier in the night that Hendry was added to his U.S. title match against Theory. And Samoa Joe is basically saying, no disrespect intended unless it's towards Theory, but he doesn't care who's added to the match. It could be anybody. He said he's here to be the U.S. champion, and he's going to walk out the U.S. champion. So crowd heat at the end of that was very hot. Segment did a 69. Samoa Joe putting in good work as always. Here we are, and it's a triple threat match, as I stated. Austin Theory versus Samoa Joe versus Joe Hendry for the U.S. title. And it had good heat and decent wrestling. And Samoa Joe picking up the win when he submitted Joe Hendry with the Coquina Clutch. This is defense number 2 of the WCW title for Samoa Joe, and good for him. Joe Hendry was off his game tonight. That's usually not the case, but whatever. Samoa Joe in amazing form. Crowd heat at the end of that was very hot. Wrestling was a 58. Crowd was a 55. And segment did a 63. So good job to Samoa Joe, defense number 2. Good 5 minute interview backstage. Kenny Omega cutting a promo again. MJF letting them know that today is the day, the night has come. His reign as the champ is over because Kenny Omega says he's here to take that title home with him. So the crowd heat at the end of that was very hot. Segment did a 72. Very nice. I like that a lot. Moving on. Here it is, Kenny Omega versus MJF for the World Heavyweight title. And it says it was a superb match. I like that. MJF picks up the win here when he, by submission, was Salt of the Earth. That this is defense. Oh, this is the first time that he's defended the title, and he does it successfully. Good for MJF. Kenny and MJF have good chemistry. That's nothing to be surprised about. They're both talented workers. Crowd heat at the end of that. Very hot. Wrestling, a 73. I think that might be the highest wrestling rating we've had maybe ever since the beginning of this WCW revival. Crowd heat, or crowd rating, I should say, was a 67. And overall, our segment rating was a 75. I think that is the highest segment rating, if not equal to the highest segment rating we've gotten. So, really happy about that. So, great matchup here. Great matchup between Omega and MJF. We might have to run this one back at the next one. Let's finish the show here. All right. We did not lose popularity, and in fact, we gained popularity in 50 regions. I really like that. All right, so didn't go off exactly how I wanted, but it definitely went off a lot better than some previous shows we booked. And I'm really thankful for that, especially since it was Starrcade. So there we have it. Let's finish the show here. Address the locker room, not tonight. There's no injuries, that's good. Skip financials as always. Skip the popularity. Let's hold a media scrum. Let's do it. All right, with tonight's show complete, you have chosen to take part in a media scrum. All right, with featured attraction having won the WCW World Tag Team titles tonight, are they going to be getting a lot of spotlight over the coming months? They deserve the opportunity to get a run as champions. I have a lot of faith in them. I've given them an opportunity. Let's see how they do. Yeah. Okay, it seems like everyone agrees that WCW Starrcade has been a successful show. What are your thoughts now that it's over? It was a huge success. The whole roster should be very proud. I'm delighted that it went that so well. It was a good show, but we can still improve. Upwards and onwards. Honestly, it was okay, but I think we could still do better. I was disappointed. I really think we can put on a much better show. I think I'm gonna. It was a huge success. Yeah, I'm just gonna say that to really hype up the crowd or my workers. Yeah, see, and my response went well with the locker room. That's exactly what I was hoping for. Good. All right. You hired Davey Boy Smith Jr. recently. How do you see him fitting on the roster? Oh yeah, yeah. I seen that his contract was coming up with whatever company he was in, so I extended him an offer and he accepted. Um, let's see. He's gonna have to work his way up the ladder. No free rides in WCW. And that response went down well with the locker room as well. Good, good. All right. How concerned are you by the off night that Nikita Lyons had? Do you consider her to be too unreliable to trust? Not at all. Not at all. Let's see. Everyone has off nights. That's true. Britt Baker won the WCW Women's title tonight. Does this mean you'll be getting behind her strongly over the coming weeks and months? Again, I gave her an opportunity. Let's see what she does with it. You hired Thekla recently. How do you see her fitting on the roster? That's another one who I seen her contract was coming up, so I extended her uh, a contract offer and also took it. I think both her and Davey Boy Smith, they still had something like a couple of weeks, something like that, before their contracts were done and they could join me. So obviously they weren't here tonight. Um, Again, work her way up the ladder. No free rides in WCW, and yeah, the locker room likes that. I bet they do. And that was the end of the media scrum. Perfect. Our show is complete. All right, and as always, I will see you here shortly when we look at the headlines and see if we got any interest in mail. All right, here we are. Let's see what they say. Feedback has been great for Starrcade and has drawn a lot of praise. Well, thank you, thank you. I'm glad that the season finale worked out great. Let's see, what else do we got? Anything? Not really. Yeah, no, not really. A lot of other companies had their shows, but I don't really see any major headlines or anything that affects me. Nobody I could sign. All right, let's see what the mail says. Oh, that's right. I forgot who this was, what his WWE name was. Uh, let's look real fast. I offered him a contract as well because his contract is coming up. Oh, that's right. Nathan Frazier. Okay, yeah. Frazier. All right. Their offer is not being seriously considered, so that means I'll probably end up hiring him. Arn Anderson has an opinion. Charlie Dempsey is pretty good in the ring. You should push him. Maybe, Arn. Maybe. Drug testing fees. Blah. Care about that. Oh, that's a bigger number than usual. Usually we get like a 4.4, 4.6, that area. Tonight for Starrcade, we got a 5.3. Very nice. Very nice. So that's that. Take a quick just a recap over our champs. Samoa Joe keeps his title. Defense number 2. Our new women's champion, Britt Baker. Our new tag team champions, once again, the two-time champs here in WCW, Featured Attraction. Of course, coming off of the vacancy due to Cash having that concussion. No, Dax. Dax had the concussion. So there we have it. And MJF defending his title and still going strong. All right, so there we have it. That was WCW Starrcade. Thank you all for joining me. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe for more. And I really appreciate all of you. Thank you.